everybody. I'm Tim Moss. I was asked to welcome everybody to the RCHS Stonehouse. You are one of a few of the first groups that have been able to utilize this newly re-engineered space, and I couldn't have been happier to be approached by former board members Dwayne and Rich here, and Emeritus Board Member Jackie, to be able to host this event for you guys tonight. So thanks for taking advantage of it, and have a good evening, and I'll hope to talk to folks after the session.
Super. Thank you, Tim.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for attending tonight's Rock County Civics Academy program. Our ability to provide these presentations is solely dependent upon the financial support we receive from our sponsors and you, our faithful listeners. Our presenting sponsor is Havana Coffee on Milton Avenue. This program would not be possible without the ongoing support of the Italian House and Big Radio, WCLO, WJVL. Supporters include Ragnar Ltd. And Ragnar Software, the John Westfall family, Dan Plushik's Janesville News Report, American Awards and Promotions, Stockman Property Development, LLC, Tim Lindow, Nowlin Law. If you believe in our mission, we welcome your financial support. Materials explaining our mission and financial support opportunities are available at the registration desk or by visiting our website, commonsenserockcounty.org. Now I present Rich Gruber. Class is on.
Thank you. And good evening. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Rock County Civics Academy. Tonight it's really, we're doing double duty. We have the opportunity to share a lot of information now at year end. The second half of our program is going to be a conversation talking about local governments. We're going to spend some time talking with the County Administrator, Josh Smith, and with the Janesville City Manager, Kevin Lehner, and hopefully that'll be an informative opportunity for you as an audience to get some questions in and to leave a little bit better in tune with what's going on in your community. Before we go into the second half of the evening, it's my pleasure to welcome the superintendents, as they would say, for the area schools. And it's a real pleasure to welcome first on my far right, Mark Holzman, Janesville Superintendent of Schools. Mark, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sitting next to Mark is Dr. Kristi Cole. She's the Chief Education Officer at the Lincoln Academy. The Lincoln Academy is a public school, charter public school, sanctioned by University of Wisconsin-Madison.
That's right.
And they've been in operation now. They're in their third year, which is exciting. And to my immediate left is Rich Dahman. He is the Superintendent of Schools in the Milton School District. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start this way. Probably the piece of information that is most readily available to the community is the Department of Public Instruction report cards. And by golly, the report cards, on their face, they look very simple, but in reality, if you spend any amount of time in them, and I spent a lot of time in them, I want you to know they're complex and they're complicated. I've had this conversation, I think, with all three of you in a different setting, and we started it out this way. The report card says, but what really doesn't it say? And I want to start with you, Mark, if I could. The report card says that you're two-star school, but that report card isn't indicative of the successes that we see coming out of the Janesville School District.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a minute, if you could.
Sure. The School District of Janesville has 58.3 or 59.3. We're 0.7 of a point behind 3 stars, which meets progress. Probably for many different reasons. We have some room to grow, obviously, in improving our student outcomes, and we're focused on that. But the report card is multiple data levels of which we use to help and guide our progress, but we don't use as measurements because the report card provides a significant test in the spring, and then we don't receive that data specifically until the fall or in the summer. So we don't use the report card score really as the tool that we measure our success or lack thereof, but it is a tool that our community can review. One example that I would share with you in the school district of Janesville that probably is a factor in our school report card is that this year our student free and reduced population increased by 7%. And when they factor in your overall student report card, what has happened was that they reduced then the percentage that they use for achievement, and they increased the percentage they use for growth. So actually our students achieved greater this year than they did the previous years, but we didn't grow as well as we did the previous years. And because our growth percentage was increased and our achievement was decreased, the report card score went down.
So it's a difficult equation, and you almost need to be an educational wizard with a statistical background to get through and walk through those complicated numbers.
Yeah.
Rich Dahman, Milton, your take, because you scored just above that threshold, and you're a 3-star. You meet expectations as a school.
Yeah, our score for this year was 69.0, which was just a shade below the next level. So we're hoping in the coming year to move up even another level. But it was an improvement from the previous year. And I think one thing, Rich, you alluded to, the complexity of the state report cards, and when they narrow it down to a single score, I would compare it to going to a doctor for a physical, and they run all of their tests and checks on you, and then if they told you, well, your overall health is 69.0, there's all kinds of different things that could mean. So what we do when we get our results is we dig into not only what that overall score is, but what does that mean for our literacy for our students, or for math, and what does it mean for not only our overall achievement at each grade level and each school, but also, as Mark alluded to, our growth scores. One of the things that we've seen over the last few years, and this was the 3rd year where our scores have gone up in Milton, but one of the things that we've seen is that our scores in both math and English language arts are very strong in the achievement area and in the on track to graduation area, and they're lagging a little bit in the growth area and in the target group outcomes, which is kind of a measure of the achievement gap. So a big part of our focus has been on how do we meet the needs for every single student, so that we have strong, high quality universal education taking place in every classroom, but we also have programs in place to challenge students that already are at their grade level, and support in place for students who are struggling and need that additional support. So
it's a tough road to hoe, and there's a different route for everybody as you look at the scores, and somehow in the end there's a whole variety of different ways you measure progress and you measure success. Dr. Kristi Cole, you're the newcomer here. You're in the 3rd year of operation, and your scores came out in the 4-star ranking. What's that really mean?
Yes. I think in regards to the state report card, it means that we're starting out strong, but we have a long way to go. And for us, it was similar in regards to our growth has really shown a lot over just the first 2 years that we've been in existence. But we also have, a higher poverty level, and so thus the growth weighs more than the actual achievement. So if you actually looked at the achievement level of our scholars, it's definitely not where we want to see it. We want to see it continue to grow and shine, and we're probably, in regards to achievement, lower than both of these gentlemen on either side. But because we've shown so much growth over the last year or so, we became a 4-star school. So we're very excited about that. We're proud of that in Beloit because it's been a challenge for us. Know that we do have children from Janesville that attend our school. We have children from Milton. We have children from all over. They can attend the Lincoln Academy. They just have to be a Wisconsin state resident. So because we're so close to the border, I always have to make sure I say that because they cannot be Illinois residents and attend the Lincoln Academy. But I mean, I think it's just one of those measures where you look at it and it helps you compare different data points in a point in time. Again, every year as you get different students, you get new students, students leave, they graduate, what may have happen, that data may change as well. But it gives you something to take a look at and say, okay, this is where we really need to grow. For us, one of the points when you're looking at the state report card is that we did land over the median in regards to growth in pretty much every single area, which made us feel very, very good that we're able to grow our scholars, because that's the piece that's really important to us.
Is it Kristi and Mark, and this is, I guess, a group question. As you look at the report card scores, the one thing that stands out in my mind is how they put together the big table that says growth is factored in this way. And how do you balance that out so that you have a clear message that you can offer to the community that this is kind of the state of the art, this is where we're at with our schools? And start with you, Mark, I guess. How do you balance those numbers?
Well, I think, again, the report card is a measure, is a tool we use. We have regular measures that we use in our classrooms on a daily and weekly basis that probably are a better indicator of student successes than what is in the report card. We know that student growth really is a comparison of how they would anticipate a student. So student growth really measures third graders and students who are like them and how much they grew compared to how many third graders in the state grew. So it's a generalization. It doesn't mean you didn't learn and you didn't grow. It's a testament to did you learn or grow as great as the average or the expectant in that role. So I think there are factors. There's a key factor that we're looking at trying to improve, and we definitely need to do that in the report card, which is chronic absenteeism. And so chronic absenteeism is students who miss 10% or more of school. So in general, that's about 17 or 18 days. In the school district of Janesville, about 24% of our population are chronically absent. And what happens in that chronically absent then is, and you'll see this across the state of report cards, then not only are you valued that in your chronically absenteeism, but also when you're on track for graduation in your elementary schools. So you see school districts who have quality or better attendance score higher on a report card, and it's just because you get two pieces in there for doing that. So we are working hard on that, but when we look at attendance, it's a school district issue, but it's also community focus. So we have to try to draw in all of us to try to make sure that we value daily attendance and the importance of coming to school.
Chronic absenteeism, the area of achievement and special groups that you target, that's different for each of your three schools. How does that work in your school setting, Kristi?
Yeah, I think for us, we focus on attendance from day one. That's really important. It is a difficult battle, especially when children weren't attending school for a while back in the 20. And so I think that for us, our focus area, besides the fact of wanting to really focus more on achievement and making sure that we're raising that bar and holding our scholars to that expectation, is that also we focus for us, the area we noticed with most concern was probably our scholars with special needs not making as much progress as we wanted to see. So for us, that's how we looked at the report card more so was here's the area. Even though they were above the state average of a scholar with disabilities achieving, so they were still achieving, but they weren't achieving, if you look at our other demographics in our categories, that they weren't achieving as far as we would like to have seen them. So that's something that we're focusing on and concentrating on right now this year. And again, it's the everyday assessments. We do exit tickets every day in every classroom to make sure the scholars are meeting the content mastery that's being taught in the class. We really focus on that specifically. We pivot when we see something not working based on the regular assessment that we use. We use the MAP assessment as well to help guide us in regards to areas that we might need to put interventions in place and extra supports in place or enrichment in place for those scholars that are achieving off the charts. So I think we have that balance But that's what we noticed in our report card.
Rich, in the Milton School District, where do you find that balance? How do you address that balance?
Yeah, one similarity to what Mark and Kristi shared is that we also see that students that have low attendance rates struggle more than students who are in school, and that seems very obvious. But the part that isn't as obvious is what can we do as a school district to help support that student? If it's illness, if it's family situations that are keeping that student from being in school consistently, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to provide support so that that student can be successful. And then we also see different student groups, similar to what Kristi had shared. One nice thing about the report that comes from the state is it does break down the level of growth for many different student groups. So at each of our schools, our school leadership teams dig into that data specific to their school and develop goals and action plans on how to address areas where they're not seeing the growth that we need. And one of the biggest areas for us, and a recent change for us, was updating some of our curriculum. We can't do well on state assessments if we're not teaching students the things that are being assessed. So we recently upgraded our English language arts curriculum, and we're making some changes in our math curriculum to make sure that we're teaching students the things that they're going to need to be successful.
There's a lot of different approaches, and it varies, I believe, by school, and trying to zero in on root causes and then find mitigation for those causes. Kristi, you mentioned that you do a daily assessment of students in the classroom. Is that a common practice? Is that something that you find across the board? I guess I'll ask all three of you to react. How does that daily assessment,
Something I've been familiar with in a charter world, and even in our public school, traditional public schools, there's oftentimes you have an objective, and you want to see if the scholars met that objective in class, and that's a pretty common teaching expectation, is that this is what we want our children to learn by the time they leave this classroom today, and did they learn it? They need to assess it to find out whether they need to reteach it, they need to change the instruction a little bit, or what they need to do to make sure the children are successful.
But you're doing that on a daily basis,
Yes.
and you get a formal
Class
feedback.
basis,
Class basis, and you get a formal feedback
Right.
from that class. Is that a teaching methodology that is commonplace across the industry, I guess?
It's pretty standard, and with the state report card, like as I shared earlier, it's a test that students take in the spring, and we get our results back in November. So it's obviously not a good tool to measure student progress if your goal is to make changes in where that student is and help them reach those grade level standards. So we also utilize regular assessments in our classrooms, and our teachers are trained to look at those assessments. And one of the best things that we do is our teachers at each grade level then work together to look at how are all of our third graders, for example, doing in math, and they identify what we need to put in place to help those students come up to third grade level or achieve beyond third grade level. They meet on a weekly basis and are able to look at how are students doing on their classroom assessments, which is a more timely way to measure if students are making progress or not, because then you can get right at a student who needs additional help in a certain area and provide that support for them.
Yeah, I think what I would say is in Janesville, we really focus on our professional learning communities, and we call those PLCs, and really the PLCs has 4 basic questions that they focus on. Number 1 is, what do we want kids to know and be able to do? Number 2 is, how do we know if they know it? Number 3 is, what do we do if they don't learn it? And number 4 is, what do we do if they already know it? So our teachers collaborate and have common assessments of which they use to be able to determine, number 1, what do we want our kids to know and be able to do? And that's part of the curriculum. And then the greater challenge comes from question 2 is, what do we do if they don't know it? And that's when we have conversations about what's working in the classrooms, what isn't working, how have you appreciated that? Our building leaders and principals, academic learning coaches work together with our teachers to be able to come up with plans individually for students. So, in this classroom, we know that we call it formative assessments for learning. exit tickets, small questions to find out how kids are doing is something that we do on a regular basis to try to guide our instructional practices so that if we find that students aren't learning or already know it, we can make a change in our instructional practices. And we know that that's where the best learning and assessment comes, is in the classroom from the teacher who has a regular assessment of the kids.
You have two factors in the classroom. It's the curriculum and it's the staffing level that you have available in the classroom. What's the impact in your ability to find qualified staff consistently and making sure that you've got the right number of qualified people in the classroom at all times? How does that work in your district?
I'll start with that, and I would add even a third thing that's just as important as the curriculum and the level of your staffing is the quality of your staff and the work that you do to help build and improve the skills that folks have. And you asked about finding people and keeping people, and for us and for a lot of school districts, it's a lot harder than it used to be. There used to be a lot of people coming out of the colleges of education wanting to become teachers, or even people looking to work in the school district in non-teaching roles. And just like a lot of private businesses, school districts are struggling more and more to both find people and to keep people because there's a lot of competition out there for a fewer number of people. So we work hard to make sure that we have a high quality work environment for people, that people enjoy coming to work and they get along with the people that they work with. But it's also very important that we're able to be competitive for salary and benefits, because we're not just competing with neighboring school districts, but we're also competing with private business for folks. So, it's become tougher and tougher over the last few years.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, without a doubt, great teachers make probably the greatest effect on elevated student outcomes. And so our job is to attract, train, and retain. And so, we have to have a plan to be able to, number one, go out and find people who want to be part of the school district of Janesville and talk to them about what we have and why we want to do that. Once we've found those folks, we need to make sure that we have a robust training program so that they feel like their work makes a difference in the lives of kids. It's a challenging mission, so we have systems in place to be able to provide mentorship and those kind of things that we need. And in the end, then we have to talk about, well, what does our culture look like and how do we retain people, knowing that the pool of candidates, as we heard earlier, is smaller than it's ever been. And there are, the beauty of living on the I-39 corridor is that you have options for all kinds of places. But within, Janesville, 30-minute drive, you probably have 8 different school districts you could choose from. So we better have a reason why we can sell our story and tell people that this is a great place to work.
Kristi, you've got a new operation. You've been there 3 years and you had the opportunity to start from scratch, and finding people willing to take on a mission like that is a little different than opening the doors on an established school system. Your experience?
My
Other
favorite.
than pulling your hair once in a
My
while.
favorite statement is it's a lot. It's a lot starting a school from scratch, and it's also really a district because we're our own LEA. So within I always say we have a small but mighty team of administration that supports this school district and school. But as a K-12, kindergarten through 12th grade, we really have the same scenario in regards to trying to find the right people. The most important job, I always say this, my most important job is to make sure that we have the right people in front of children, period. Like, that is the most important thing I can do. I sit in on every single interview, which we had 32 last month, just to find a teacher, because we don't, it's very competitive, and it's also making sure that you have the right mission alignment. You have the people. For us, we're looking for people with growth mindset. We're looking for people who want to learn and grow, and people who work hard, and people who believe that all children can learn, and it's up to them as the adults to make that happen. So for us, it's very, very mission aligned in regards to who we have, And it is harder and harder to find people who are in the field and wanting to do that and wanting to put in that extra work and go above and beyond to make it happen. We're very fortunate that we have such a great team. And I think, starting something different and new in a city that hasn't had a lot of change and opportunities has been a gift for us at the Lincoln Academy to be able to continue to grow and flourish and show what's possible. I think for us, one of our key things of bringing people in and retaining is the coaching aspect. So we are really a firm believer, and we talk about this in the interview, and we share, we're very upfront about, hey, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have people walking in your classroom. You're going to have people coaching you. You'll see people pretty much every day stopping in and supporting you. And there are teachers that will respond with, yes, I want to have that happen. And then there are teachers that are like, okay, this might not be for me. And that's great. I mean, that's why it's so important to make sure you have the right people at the school. And we've struggled just like everybody else in regards to making sure we have the certified teachers in front of children. And but it's a different opportunity, right, with a brand new school and growing our own. And we've had to increase each year as the number of children have increased. We've increased every year by 100 children. And so next year will fully be full K-12 as we've been growing at both elementary and middle and high. So.
My guests in this segment are Drs. Mark Holzman, superintendent in the Janesville School District, Kristi Cole with the Lincoln Academy, and Rich Dahman with the School District of Milton. I would mention to the audience that if you have questions you'd like to ask of the panelists, Paul has cards back in the back. He'd be happy to give you with a pen. Write your questions down legibly, please, and in just a couple of sentences, and I'll do my darndest to get them into the panel before the evening is done. So I invite that participation at that level as well. You all operate as public schools under the similar types of financial constraints imposed by the state of Wisconsin. And one of the critical elements in school success, I guess, is supporting the quality education that goes on in the classroom. How do you balance out that necessary support and staffing and all of the demands with the budget constraints that you face day in and day out? And by golly, they change on a almost yearly basis too. I think the toughest job a superintendent has is balancing the budget. Am I making a fair assessment, Mark?
I think the toughest job is meeting the needs of the kids every day. And then the second probably is trying to organize our operating budget. I think the gist of the finances in public schools don't make any sense, right? We start school in September and pass the budget in November. So first and foremost, that doesn't make any sense. Then we have a biennium budget that allows us to determine how much per pupil aid we're going to get. So we're fortunate that in this next year we know how much money we will receive from the state, but then we will guess the following year. And when I say guess, that's what it is. So the challenge, really as I look at public school finance is that school districts across the state of Wisconsin really have gone to taxpayers to fund locally their public schools. And without that taxpayer funding, school districts will have to make cuts to what we would call traditional operations that we have. In 2020, the School District of Janesville went to operational referendum to support programs and procedures that we have. And again, what we're planning moving forward is a strategic plan. We have a number of people working with our organization right now to talk about some of the strategies that we have to pay attention to in the future. In addition to that, we have a capital study. School District Janesville has 22 facilities. We are the 9th largest school district in the state with a $190 million budget. And when we get resources from the state and from our local taxpayers, we're appreciative of that. But we also would say that, this year's $325 increase on a $10,000 per pupil allocation, which moved to 11, is really about 3%, and we knew that CPI was at 8. right? And we know that our insurance and our facilities, all those things continue to go up. So the challenge is, where are we going to reduce, or how do we reallocate the resources to provide the supports that we need in the classroom with our kids on a daily basis? And in addition to that, how are we going to continue to facilitate the needs of our aging buildings? The average building in Janesville Public School District was 61 years old. So we have some beautiful facilities, but with that causes us to have to make some decisions on, are we tuck pointing or hiring teachers? And that in and of itself is really a challenge that every school district has across the state.
Rich, how do you balance your budget?
I think I'm going to start that the format that the state has for funding schools has put local school districts in a very tough situation. Since 2008, the revenue limit adjustment at the state level has fallen about $3,300 per member behind the rate of inflation. So our costs are going up at this rate, and the funding from the state is coming in here. And that creates what Mark alluded to. It creates pressure on local taxpayers to decide, do they want to fill in that gap so that schools can continue to operate the way that they have and not have to make decisions about caring for their facilities and reducing costs down the road versus having high quality teachers in their classrooms. So it's always a balancing act, and folks in the audience from Milton have heard me talk about the importance for us as a school district to balance providing a high quality education and opportunities for students with being good fiscal stewards for our taxpayers. And we feel like we do that very well, but that becomes harder and harder as competition for staff becomes tougher and tougher. Our school district, like most school districts, have around 75% of our expenses in every year are for people, for the people that teach our students, that get our kids to school, that serve meals, that take care of our facilities. Salaries and benefits make up about 75% of our budget. So when budgets are tight, the way that we balance, or the only way we can balance our budget, is to do as much or do what we've been doing with fewer people, and that it spreads the load out amongst everyone else. For this current year, we had asked our taxpayers for an operating referendum. It was not successful, and because of that, we had to make about a little over $1 million in reductions to our budget for this current year. It would have been about double that, but we used some remaining one-time ESSER money to limit the amount that we had to reduce. But now that one-time money is gone. The state raising the revenue limit up to that $11,000 really did help us, because we are a low revenue school district. We're in the bottom third for school districts for revenue per member across the state. But it did buy us a little bit of time, that increase. It allowed us to have a balanced budget for this current year, and we're looking at that for next year without having to make major reductions for next year. But beyond next year, we know that we have a fiscal situation that we're going to need to deal with. Our school board has begun taking a look at that issue and how we want to address that.
Kristi, you have this, the school finance is as complicated as school report cards. And you as a
Yes.
charter school have yet a different
Right.
funding formula than the two traditional schools. And it's equally as constrained. It's not as if you are operating on an unlimited pocketbook.
Correct.
What keeps you awake at night trying to keep all of that into sync?
For us too, we can't go to the taxpayers to levy taxes. So as a charter school, we can't do that. So we don't have opportunities for referendums and things like that. So for charter schools, typically what we do is we do fundraising, and we seek funders, and we go out and do events and activities and have our scholars, make things and sell them, and all these different ways that we look at to make sure that we can cover that gap, because there is a gap in our budget as well. And so for us being a newer school, one of the things that we've had to look at, of course, is our staffing to scholar ratio, which is always the most important thing, but typically that's where it is the most expensive. We do have a great asset in our building, which was donated, which is a real gift for us, certainly, and we're very well aware of that. But with that comes a lot of costs, as we know, and I don't have the year-old buildings yet, but I've worked in those in years past, and I know the challenges that can bring, especially at a charter school level where this is the amount of money you get, that's it, unless you go out and seek grants. And so we're constantly writing for grants. We're constantly trying to find other ways to fill that funding gap for us, because we can't go to the taxpayers. So it's a little different.
It's an amazing challenge to try and pull all those things together, and yet in spite of those challenges, you get great successes that each of your districts can talk about. And for a minute or two, if you would, I'm John Q. citizen coming in, and I go to each of you individually and I say, why should I be part of your school district? What's the excitement that you can share? What are the successes that you're gonna offer to make sure that I become a member of your school district? Mark, you want to start?
Sure. I think, first and foremost this year we were able to recognize Monroe Elementary as a Blue Ribbon school, and they went to Washington about a week and a half ago to recognize that award. 8 schools in the state of Wisconsin, and only 3 of them in elementary in achievement are able to achieve that. So I think we have some significant opportunities there. 8 of our elementary schools exceeded expectations on that school report card as opposed to the district. I would also say that we have some amazing people and amazing programs, from robotics to Parker Arts Academy to opportunities in co-curriculars. We continue to be able to provide all kinds of opportunities for students. We served over 1.2 million meals to students last year, and was able to do that without taking any of our money from what we call Fund 10. It's funded money from the state and local governments. We continue to have over 1,000 students participate in AP courses at the high school. We have wonderful partnerships with the local technical colleges, and we have kids earning credits on a regular basis. So when I think about the opportunities that exist within our school district, I'm excited to say that there are multiple opportunities, more than anybody can really imagine, from kindergarten through 12th grade. And we do that really in the guidance of having great people who work with kids who really care about their outcomes and are working every day to try to provide that support.
Rich, convince me, I need to be part of the Milton School District.
I think the biggest part of our success are the people, whether it's our students, our parents, our staff, our school board members, our community members who don't necessarily have a child in the school but are still very invested. And we're very proud of our high student achievement. I spoke earlier to that, but we're well above the state averages in math and English language arts. We have strong achievement at all of our schools, great opportunities for students. We really want to make sure that we find things for students to be doing outside of the classroom, whether it's clubs, athletic teams, fine arts. We have award-winning marching band and show choir that we're very proud of. And then the third part of that is that community involvement. Whether it's our students getting out into local businesses and doing internships as high school students, or earning college credit as high school students, or getting people into our schools to use our facilities. Those partnerships are things that are extremely important for us. We have extremely high quality staff. We're really proud of our talented, dedicated teachers and all of our educators who do an outstanding job with our students. And we really feel like we have a good balance of being proud of the great things that are happening across our school district, but also being humble enough to know that there are ways that we can get better and things that we need to continue to do to improve.
Kristi, same question.
It's the greatest school in Beloit. It's 4-star. We're super excited. K-12. One of the things that I think is really great about the Lincoln Academy is the community that we're building there. And for a lot of our families, it's the idea that they're going to start in K-4 kindergarten and they're going to graduate from the Lincoln Academy and have all these amazing opportunities in front of them. Our facility itself is quite exciting, and the labs, we have over 20 plus labs in our building with different hands-on instruction. Our scholars talk about careers because our 3 pillars are academic rigor, career, character development, and career exploration. So the career focus, and what I mean by that is just giving children options when they leave us. Our goal is to make sure that our scholars can lead happy, choice-filled lives when they graduate from the Lincoln Academy. And, you know, starting in K4, we ask them, what do they want to be when they grow up? And we develop a plan, and every single year, our children are developing plans and setting goals for themselves, and we're helping them achieve those goals. And as staff who get to do that and get to watch our children grow, we've really built already this very strong, trusting community of support and educators who are always focused on children first and making sure that they're putting their best efforts to help them grow and to be better professionals themselves. Like they're people who have that growth mindset and want to learn and grow and continue to do great things and do something that hasn't been done before in an amazing little city that we have. And so I'm really excited about what we have to offer at the Lincoln Academy. There's so many things for both the scholars and the community and the businesses and partnerships that we partner with and come in, and all the great things that are happening. Milton and Janesville, the Lincoln Academy is able to provide a lot for our families and our scholars. So.
Co-curriculars, extracurricular activities are part of the overall holistic approach to education. As you're trying to balance a budget, you're working under fiscal constraints. How do you continue to grow those co-curricular investments that are so necessary for that complete education of a student? And both of the large school districts, you get fabulous reputations for the offerings that you have. How do you balance all of that? Because that, again, that's another part of that investment you have to make in the community future. Mark?
Yeah, I think student engagement is really an important part of their educational success. And so we know that students who participate in co-curricular activities, whether that's athletics, whether that's robotics, whether that's music, have a much higher chance of positive outcomes than those who don't. So we continue to look for ways to provide opportunities for our kids, and we actually staff based on our student needs. This year, again, I know there are 4 basketball teams, both at Parker and Craig's boys teams, meaning there's varsity, JV, and 2 freshman teams. And that's the reason that is that way is because we have kids who are interested, and then we have staff that we need to be able to find opportunities for. We had a report to the board recently that told us that we had a number of increased participation at our high schools in co-curriculars, but we also increased opportunities in middle school for the first time for co-curricular and saw a significant uptick in our 6th and 7th and 8th grade kids. Knowing that we want to build engagement, and not everybody loves reading, writing, math, so what we want to do is make sure that sometimes if that's a science program after school, or if that's a artistic program after school, or if that's a co-curricular volleyball, we want to engage the kids and make sure that that's a participant. So it's a priority for us to continue to provide options for kids.
Rich?
Yeah, a lot of the things that Mark shared about the importance of having opportunities that kids are interested in and able to take part in, whether it's athletics, fine arts, or different clubs or student groups. I was at an assembly at Milton Middle School a couple of weeks ago, and they recognized the members of the volleyball team. They had them come out of the stands down onto the gym floor, and this was just the students there, and I was amazed at how many kids came out. It was shocking how large a group that was, and it warmed my heart to see all these middle school kids who were connecting to their school and building connections with their classmates by taking part in the volleyball team, and we really want to reinforce that importance. So we track not only how many students are involved in different activities, but is that happening across all of our different student groups? Are our students with with disabilities taking part, and do we have opportunities to allow them to take part? Are students who live in poverty able to take part in activities? And if we see a trend where those things aren't happening, then we have a responsibility as a school district to make sure that we put things in place to allow every student the opportunity to find something beyond the classroom that brings them joy.
Kristi, third year of operation, you have started to introduce a lot of the co-curriculars, the extracurricular activities. You got to walk before you run. How critical is it to the success of the Lincoln Academy that you have these programs up in operation?
Well, it's really important to our families and our scholars. They want to make sure that they have those same opportunities as they would if they run to a traditional high school or, elementary school. So we have a lot of extracurricular clubs and sports as well. Being in WIAA and working through probation period as you're in new school, it takes you 3 years to get through that, we're making it because it's a process, but we have all pretty much the same sports, except I will say that we do not have football with a school our size and the numbers that we have. That's not happening. Our goal is to hopefully. What? I'm hoping we can maybe work together with another district at some point to be able to do that and provide opportunities for our children. But we also use our community partners a lot. We work with the Y, we work with the Boys and Girls Club, we work with others that have different programs. We work with robotics clubs, homeschooling folks, the other districts around us, where we can try to work together and provide all those opportunities that are very important for our scholars. We even have an esports lab. That's one of our new additions that just came on this summer, where we got a grant for that and we're able to make that happen. So a lot of scholars who might not love the sports are, gaming and doing really well there. A lot of scholarships are offered for that nowadays. So, we try to provide as many opportunities as possible.
From the audience, specific questions for Rich and for Mark. The school districts are being asked to spend money to finish out locker rooms in the new Women's Sports and Convention Center. How do you budget for it and fit into the already constrained budgets that you've got in your operations? How do you fulfill that commitment?
Yeah, I'll start with that. For us, specific to hockey, the school district of Milton does not have hockey facilities on site. So our hockey teams, our girls hockey players are part of a co-op and practice outside of Milton. We host a co-op for our boys team, but our players go from Milton to Stoughton for practice and to compete in games. And that's not a good atmosphere. That's not what we want for our student athletes. If there was something closer, we aren't going to be building our own hockey facilities in Milton anytime soon, but if there was something closer that we were able to take part in, it would really benefit our students and families that are part of the hockey community. As far as finding budgetary room for that, we look at ways to utilize our youth sports groups for some fundraising for some things, for opportunities like that, especially if it's something that's above and beyond what we're able to provide for other students in other groups.
Okay. We've got just a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to let each of you have the last word for a minute or so, and basically sum up from the context of what should we be looking forward to in the community coming from the Janesville School District, from the Lincoln Academy, and from the Milton School District. We've had some great things to build on. What should we as John and Joan Q, citizen John and Joan Q taxpayer, when we get that love letter coming out here in a couple of weeks that tells us how much property taxes we have to pay, what should we expect next year that is going to make me excited to pay that check? Mark?
Sure. Well, I would say that public schools are an investment in our community, right? And so I would say that's a great investment for your dollars. I think there's a couple of things that are really exciting. The School District of Janesville has a community group pulling together that we're working on a strategic plan. That strategic plan will be presenting their findings and goals in February to the board. In addition to that, we've hired a company to look at all of our facilities. And so in this synergistic way, we're going to have a facilities study to try to identify some of the needs that we have within our district, and a strategic plan that comes together, talks about what are some of the things we need to most pay attention to, and how are we going to help improve those outcomes of the kids. So I think those are two big pieces in our district that we have to really look forward to. In addition to that, just trying to make partnerships with our local businesses and communities. I would say that we have a great partnership that we made just this year with the city, and we provide free transportation for all students who have a student ID in grades 6 through 8, and that happened really based on a summer conversation that we had a little bit about how we're going to make students get to school and reduce barriers. So I think those are some exciting things.
Some exciting things. Rich, you want to take a stab?
Yeah, we're really excited about what's coming up across our school district. We have a lot of great things happening. We want to continue to build strong partnerships with our different municipalities. Most of our schools are in the city of Milton, but they aren't all in the city of Milton, and our school district actually has 9 separate municipalities that make up a portion of our school district. We feel like we have really strong relationships with those groups, but we want to continue to build those and continue to grow and help grow our local business community. We've had some outstanding business growth across our area, and we feel a big part of that is that people want to live and work and hire folks in a school district that provides a high quality education. So we're excited about that, and our school board has some tough work coming up on how to make sure that we have the resources that we're going to need over the coming years. But I think that we can do that in a way that keeps that strong balance between that high quality education and opportunities for students, which is why we're here, but also being strong fiscal stewards, which we've been able to do very well.
Thanks, Rich. Kristi, you get the last word.
In regards to the Lincoln Academy, I think the exciting thing that you're going to see next year, we'll have our first graduating class, and we're going to see that children are going back into the community, they'll be young adults, and being able to provide the ability to read, write, do math, and be extraordinary contributors to our community. And that's our goal, is to keep them in the city of Beloit, truly, so that they can continue to help us flourish and grow as a city. And I just think you'll continue to see all of the scholars out in their blue polos or black polos or gray polos, depending on which grade level they're at, out in the community, and being happy, joyous, brilliant young individuals that you get to know and can do great things for the community. They're great people, and we're excited to see them grow and do great things. We have the future president, who's actually at our school, by the way, and we've got other people that are doing so excited. We've got welders, we've got doctors and lawyers and teachers who I've already started recruiting truly in middle school and high school, that are going to come back to the Lincoln Academy and just doing great things in life. And that's our goal.
My frustration, Kristi, my frustration, Mark, my frustration, Rich, is the career education thing. I always wanted to be a buckaroo, and I never really had that chance for that education.
Never too late. That's right. That's right.
There's still hope for me.
Be that buckaroo.
Kristi, Mark, Rich, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And there's a lot of exciting things in our community. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. We'll be talking with city and county government leaders in the next half of the Civics Academy presentation for tonight. About 5 minutes, we're back. Round of applause.